Hi, everybody. I would like to promote this book about J.G. Bennett. It's written by Ben Bennett, who I was lucky enough to go. Well, I've met Ben quite a few times, but I was lucky enough to go to Armenia with him and his wife, Cindy. Um, God, now I can't remember which year it was, but it wasn't too long ago. And Ben Bennett is son of J.G. Bennett, and Ben's put this book together all about his memoirs of knowing his father. And I think J.G. Bennett's writings, his lectures, everything he's put forward is a very important part of helping humans stay on the right path. He could see a long time ago that things were going a bit crazy. I've done talks about him with Tony Bennett, which you can find on my channel and also on his channel. And I highly recommend the talk given by J.G. Bennett at the Gotham Bookmark. I think it was back in the 1970s, because he was explaining about what was going to come in the next 50 years. And he's been more or less right. But one of the quotes I wanted to take from this book by J.G. Bennett, which I think is really important for us all to take on board. So this is J.G. Bennett. The problem in front of us all is how to live in a world that is becoming increasingly dominated by negative forces, how to become possible channels for the transmission of positive forces. And that is definitely becoming more noticeable. The negative forces seem to be, well, definitely increasing. But someone said to me, "Oh, it's because you do the Gurdjieff work that you're able to notice these things more." But I am aware of more and more people are becoming aware that things are just not right, and that there's a lot of negativity going on instead of positivity. There seems to be a lot of energy being put out there to try and keep us all stuck in this materialistic realm rather than going forward, though they might promote that they are helping humanity go forward, when in fact they're keeping us stuck in this way of being. And we have to remember, from the negative forces side, they won't want humanity to develop or to evolve. And there's also a lot of human beings out there that don't want humanity to develop or evolve, because they don't believe in that kind of thing. They think this is it, and that we've reached the climax, the apex of what humanity is. And they're quite happy with it because they feel safe and they feel secure. And I can see from studying history, this probably is one of the safest times for humanity in certain respects. Most people have food, most people have shelter, though many of us are struggling. And also there are people out there that are still starving, and there are people still living on the streets. So it's not as perfect as these people who believe this time is the perfect time for us and we've reached the best times. I think maybe they're a little bit narrow-minded, or perhaps a bit blinkered, like when horses have them blinkers on them so they can't see what's going on to the sides. A lot of them kind of people that say this is perfect time is because they don't want to see what's going on, or they throw money at a bit of charity to, help them with their guilt of all this. Or maybe they're so switched off from their emotions that they're not aware of what's going on, or don't care about what's going on for those that are still struggling in this world, or whether that's negative forces operating them, I'm not sure. But what J.G. Bennett's encouraging, and what I want to encourage, is let's keep the positive forces going. We need to help support the positive side of things. As he says, how do we become possible channels for the transmission of positive forces? And I believe that's why many of us are doing this Gurdjieff work, because we want to be a transmission of positive force, the helping of the evolution of humanity going upwards. So I have met people over the years that I've realized do this kind of work just for their own ego development, for their own, because it does bring a certain power to you, and a certain, I don't want to say charismatic, but I know it's helped elevate people on their ego to they can be feeding their ego and perhaps being followed in a certain way, I don't know, or that they helps them to be more aware of what's going on around them, because we need to be aware of what's going on around us. But some people might be doing it not to help with the evolvement of humanity. They might be wanting to learn this so they can be aware of what's going around them, so they can just make their way up in their own life. And one of the things that I think is very important in the Gurdjieff work is to help you to develop, to see what's happening around you, to be more awake. I've been with some people this last year or so who seem to think being awake is all about just noticing that there's a dark bull out there that's trying to uh, put down humanity, to keep us subjected, to keep us dumbed down. And it isn't just that. Being awake is also being aware of what you're doing in your day-to-day life. You know, where you're going, what's happening to you as you're walking down the street. That's also being awake, because you don't want to just be awake of seeing past the conspiracy theories or seeing past what the governments might be, or the leaders or the cabal might be trying to hoodwink us with. We need to be aware and awake in our own everyday life, because that's important to us as we're going through our day 24/7. We need to try and be as awake as we can so we can be aware of what's happening to us. I do worry about a lot of people going down the conspiracy rabbit holes and going too deep, too far down, and thinking, oh, I'm being awake because I can see what's going on. It's not just the outer world and being aware of that. We need to be aware of our own inner life. And by doing this, we also become aware of, we learn about how other people act. We can learn or react. We learn how to read other people, how we can become aware of what's going on. I wanted to give an example of the Dalai Lama, actually, which is going to be quite controversial, maybe. I'm sure many of you have seen this sucking my tongue video. I've always been a big hero of the Dalai Lama. I always used to promote him lots and lots and lots, but I'm not happy with that video. I've watched that video, and you can see how the little boy is so eager to meet the Dalai Lama. Did the Dalai Lama forget himself, or did he forget tradition? I've had people saying to me, oh, in Tibet, putting your tongue out is a playful thing. Okay, I get that. But he actually asked the boy to suck his tongue, which is a bit weird. And, you know, I've spoken to other people about this. You can see in the video, there's some strangeness going on where the Dalai Lama grabs his hand and things like that. But it's one of the few ones I can't seem to read. I can't read whether the Dalai Lama is genuinely being a creepy pervert or whether he's just being a gentle old man who might not be aware of what he's saying or doing. Because in the past, I used to be able to look at the Dalai Lama and I could see he genuinely was giving out love and joy. I might leave it at that, actually. Maybe I shouldn't go too deeply into this, but I think this is what I'm trying to promote to us all, that if we can learn to read how people are, we learn to have a better idea of what someone's doing, what their agenda is, whether they're coming at us to use us or whether they're coming at us with a genuine feeling of sincerity or love. And I do see this comes with the Gurdjieff work. I think I was a bit of a aware of things when I was younger about how people were. I used to be able to tell who was going to be the villain in TV movies and things like that, just through their acting, you know, because obviously that actor knows he's going to be the villain, so he has to play it in a certain way, but at the same time keep it secret for the viewers so they don't guess who it is. So I'm not saying I'm a clever clogs on that kind of thing, but I think from a young age I was able to see, I suppose, through a lot of people. And I'm quite concerned that people find it difficult to see this kind of, people are very much believers of what they hear and read on the mainstream. And I know we have the sheep that are like that. The sheep are very believe it all, believe everything that's being said, because why else would it be on the news if it's all lies? They wouldn't put lies on the news. Bless them. And I understand that they want to believe and trust in the people that are their peers and guiding them. I was from a young age aware quite quickly that we can't always trust our peers. And I'm sure many of you have been through that kind of thing. Maybe that's what made you stay on these kinds of paths, because you were aware that something's not quite right. But for some people, who are coming onto this work or waking up, it's a bit of a revelation for themselves, but they're still not quite got the hang of how to read somebody, what their intentions are. But this will come as we develop ourselves. But at the same time, we don't want to be caught up by people that are like false gurus, or people that might have not necessarily your, as a student, um, your path or whatever in their, in for your best interests. Maybe it's more for their best interest, but we need to learn to be able to discern, and that does come by working on ourselves as well. And also, there's other courses you can do on that kind of thing, or just go out and people watch and try to learn how people are acting when they're out in public. Many people put on a persona, but many people don't, because they forget that there's other people out there. Many people live in this world as if this world's all about them and nobody else. But I think also by learning this kind of thing, getting back to Bennett's quote, is that we can then see who's coming with or wants to be a transmission for the good forces, the positive forces, and who's actually a transmission for the negative forces. Because none of us like to be hoodwinked, none of us like to be conned. I followed the wrong people sometimes and learned very quickly they can't be trusted. But then there are people out there that are genuine, but we need to learn to discern, and we can feel that through their vibrations. Once we've developed ourselves enough to be more aware and more awake, we'll feel them vibrations from them and know whether it's good or bad. And again, that's kind of a subjective thing. I know somebody who the way they sense things is through, they get a like a color vibe, which I found quite interesting. Like he was saying about how if something's quite what was the words he was using, like a growing force, or that someone that's come with wants to expand, he normally senses green, which are quite interesting, isn't it? Green's nature, a growing plant. And I know many people sense red when something's a bit negative and a bit off. Other people I know, they say they can hear a vibration change around them when something's a bit off. It's a bit of a like high pitch. Maybe when I have to ask them actually what they mean when something positive happens, because that's, you'd like to think you could hear the angels singing, but but this all comes with developing oneself. And too many people are definitely being caught up in the negative transmissions that are going on, because they're sheep that want to just follow along and do what they're told. Some people rebel from all this just because they're not like being told what to do, and they're too much in control of their own life. But we're doing it from the point of view of we're trying to wake up and follow a spiritual and soulful path. I hope that wasn't too rambling. But anyway, I highly recommend this book about J.G. Bennett, or read J.G. Bennett's lectures, or Ben's got a website with J.G. Bennett's lectures, many of them audio, so you can listen to them, don't have to read them. And when you hear J.G. Bennett speak, like when you hear someone coming from their heart, you can feel it as well. So I highly recommend this book, anything to do with J.G. Bennett. And check out my videos with Anthony Blake, where we discuss his time with J.G. Bennett. So thank you for watching.